joining me again with Breaking the Silence Together podcast. Today I want to start with something that someone brought to my attention. It's not so much of the person that's dealing with the mental illness or the addiction, but actually the caregiver or the supporter. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Jeannie Perez, and I am the founder of You're Not Alone. It's an organization that supports mental illness and addiction. And the way that we support mental illness and addiction is by providing professional services from a therapist, counselor, or an advocate at no charge to an individual either with mental illness or an addiction. We'll meet them wherever they're at in their journey and get them the help that they need either with our community, with our organization, or we will find them the help that they need out of our organization depending on the assistance or the help that they need for their mental illness or their addiction. And most of the time, whenever we do bring someone into our community and we have to get them help based out of our organization, most of the time those are for individuals that their level of mental illness is where they need to be in a facility for a little bit. We don't have a facility at this moment, but we do work with many facilities, so we will find them a facility that will accommodate their problem, their situation. The same thing with an addiction. Most of the time, if we bring you onto our organization, and the reason why we would just have you on to someone else and their organization would be also because you might need a detox center, or you might need a facility where you can go for a couple months that will be part of your journey. That we will find for you because we don't have that at this moment neither. But we do work with many facilities that would accommodate mental illness and an addiction outside of our organization. With that being said, today's talk share is going to be for the listeners that either are a caregiver or a loved one or just someone that's close to someone that needs mental health help, support. Same thing, someone that might be dealing with some type of addiction that needs some kind of intervention or some kind of help. So today's topic is going to be, how do we approach, or how do we start a conversation with someone that we know, whether it's a loved one or just someone close to us, that we know that they need help with their mental illness, or we know that they need help with their addiction, but we don't know how to approach them because they're at their time where they feel as though they don't need any help. So today's topic is basically, how do we approach these situations with our loved ones or anyone that's close to us? How do we go about it? And the reason why I'm talking about that today is because a caregiver came to me. They actually called me, and they just really basically just wanted to talk about, they just wanted to talk with somebody and see the outlook from someone else and how they feel or how they would approach the situation that he's going through. So his question to us was, how does he approach his sister? They don't live close by. They actually live a couple of hours away from each other. But he knows, he's seen, and he's heard from her family now. She has her own family, a situation that's going on, but this is something that she's been dealing with all her life. So she's been in and out of therapy, out of counseling, out of facilities. So she's been in and out of getting help all her life. She hasn't stayed consistent with any of the help. Or maybe it's just she hasn't really met anyone that really she feels comfortable with. I don't know. And he doesn't know neither because I asked him that question. But his question to us was, how does he approach her? How does he start this conversation with her now that she's an adult? And ask her, we know that you need help. It's time for you to get help again. How can I help you? He wants to ask her that, but he just doesn't know how to put it together because they're no longer teenagers. they're no longer living together at home with their parents. Now she's living with her family. She's a mother now, she's a wife. But he knows that this is the situation, this is the problem, that the things that are going on, and the conversations that he's having with her husband. He knows that the red flags are what she's been going through, the trauma that she went through when she was younger. So he said he really didn't get into the conversation with her husband about it, because he felt as though if she hasn't opened up to him and told him exactly what's going on with her, he didn't want to cross those boundaries on that. It wasn't his place to do. But he does want to have a conversation with her now as an adult, but he just doesn't know how to do it, because he doesn't want to start any red flags where her husband's going to question, what's going on, what am I not knowing, or what don't I know. So, we asked him, like, what was her situation, what was her trauma, like, what was the situations, how did she act while she was growing up as a teen, what was her outbursts, was she having any kind of addiction problem because of her trauma, was she isolated, and what type of help did she get throughout her, ages while she was smaller. And, he said that his parents had started her in counseling at the age of 12 because of, she was out, doing stuff in school. She was acting out with other things. She was hurting herself, so they went and got her some counseling. She was seeing a therapist for a while. They had her on a plan where she was seeing a therapist once a month. And they had her she had got involved in some art classes and stuff like that. And he said that helped her for a little bit. She was doing journaling. They had a program where she would do journaling stuff. I think it was like once a week with a program in their community that did art and journaling. She did that once a week. And he said, they seen where some days she would be good, some days it would be just back to being bad, no matter how much counseling she got or how many times she went out to her activities. Just some days were just bad. But he said as she got older, the parents kind of leaned back on her a little bit and let her kind of almost grow up and mature on her own. And then they were giving her the option whether she wanted to go to therapy or she didn't. When she didn't want to, she didn't have to. After she got a certain age, and then eventually she moved away. She got married, she moved away. But now he's seeing the red flags all over again. He's hearing about it. He's not seeing it because they live a couple of hours away. And he knows deep down inside, he knows that it's because she needs to go back, get some kind of process again, a plan on a therapy or some kind of activity, and getting herself back together to start healing. And, me being a parent that dealt with a child that had mental illness, and at times I didn't know what was going on too. So, I can understand, and I can understand where he's coming from. But at the same time, we have to, as I learned, dealing with the situation with my child, as I learned that we have to pause and we have to really, really understand first what that individual is going through. And once we can find out the core of that problem, and then we can figure out the steps going forward. So with his sister, his parents already figured that out. They know the core, and they had a plan for her while she was living with them. So now he's just trying to put that together for her now as an adult, so that he can go back to her and say, look, I know this is what's going on with you. It's time for you to get help. How about if we start doing this? Or we get you this help? Or maybe make this call together. So what I told him was, try to put together, try to remember what was the cause, how did your parents go about it, what worked best for your sister at that time. And he said, well, what worked best for her at that time, I think, was more the activities than anything else. I think I seen her a little bit more happy to say, or a little bit more calm and more involved with everything when she was going to her activities, when she was doing journaling and her art classes. So I told her, maybe you can bring up to her, have a conversation with her on the situations that that she deals with, her mental illness, bring that up. But you have to bring it up in a sensitive way. You have to be very passionate with it. You just can't jump in and say, oh, look, I think you need therapy again. You have to really try to wrap yourself around how the individual is feeling at that moment. Because you don't want to crush them down where they just isolate and really don't talk to you. So we have to really fill them out at the moment that we're ready to have that conversation with them. We really have to fill them out on how they are feeling at that moment. Where are they at mentally at that moment? Because you want to be able to meet them there. You don't want to push them over, and you don't want to get them under neither, because you don't want them to close up on you. So you want to meet them emotionally where they're at. And that's exactly what I told him. I said, well, you want to meet her first emotionally, see what's going on with her now at this stage of her life. See what pushed her back into these actions that you think is coming up again and you haven't seen for a while. And then talk to her on maybe finding activities or something in her community that she can get involved in. Maybe a pottery class that they might have that in her area. Maybe an art class that they might have in her area. Or maybe she just needs to start journaling again. Now they have digital journaling that you can do online. Or for a lot of people that like the hard copy journaling, then you just get a book and you just journal with no filter. And he said, well, I don't think she likes too much writing. I know she liked the journaling then because, she did her stickers and she put pictures in there, and that's how she did her journaling more than anything. He said she saved more of what was going on with her and she would just put it in the book. Whether it was stickers, whether it was a picture that she was taking with friends, or maybe it was a place that she went to, she saved a flyer, she put that in there. I said, okay. So she did more of a scrapbook journaling than a writing journaling. And he said, yes, exactly, that's what she did. She did more of a scrapbook journaling than an actual writing journaling. Which was really interesting to me, because I've heard of both. People doing scrapbook journaling, which they just keep memories stored in there, and then you have the journaling where they just write everything out. And I've asked different clients, that do the scrap one and they do the regular writing one, which one do they think works best? And I think I've heard about almost equal on both, whether it's the scrapbook one and you just copying up all your memories, whether they're good or bad, you just put them in a book. You're taping them in or you're gluing them in and then you're writing little statements. Or you're doing your regular journal, which you're writing everything out word by word. And I found out that the ones that like the scrapbook one are the ones that really hold on to memories. Those are the ones I think that do more good. They do better off with the scrapbook journaling because they work better mentally and they can cope with stuff more mentally and physically with memories. And then the ones that are more visual are the ones that are writers. The ones that really just like to speak it out more, or instead of holding it so much in their brain, they like to speak it out in paper to make sense of it. And those are the ones where the writing journaling works best for. So the reason why I try to break them up and explain them was because I think that a lot of people think just when you hear journaling, it's just get a book and write in it. And I wanted to let everybody know there is multiple ways of journaling, and the two ones that I just spoke about are two that are very popular and work very good with mental illness and addiction. Because not just mental illness, just not the ones that are struggling with mental illness are people that are writing down or scrapping. It's always also the ones with addictions that like to keep a journal, whether it's a memory one or a write one, because they just like to know, sometimes follow through on what they're doing every day. That's how they keep track of things, or that's how they cope with things. So, getting back to our conversation with him, he said he was going to, reach out to his sister, and he did his little homework on her area, and he said there was a new pottery place that opened up in her area about 2 or 3 miles from her. And he was just going to take a couple days from work, and he was going to go out to see her. And he was just going to, once he came over, he was going to invite, let's go out. I heard about this pottery place. Let's go try this new pottery out. But he said the reason why he wanted to go in person and talk to her because he wanted to get her out of the home, just him and her, and have this conversation, just him and her, without her kids or her husband being there and noticing or hearing maybe what they were talking about, because there is boundaries and there is that privacy. Everyone is entitled to their privacy, and he wanted to make sure that he kept that with his sister. Unless she wanted to share it with her kids or her husband, he was leaving that up to her. But his plan is to take time off of work, go out to where she's at, stay a couple days with her, and do a pottery class with her for like 2 days to see if she likes that, and maybe get her going after that. Maybe she'll be able to go with it by herself, but start doing that as an activity, or maybe do it with her kids or her husband. But he just wanted to start that activity with her to see if that's something that she can put into her every day, to see if that's going to help her out a little bit with the slump that she's in right now, battling again with her mental illness, which I believe that what she deals with, she suffers with, is depression. So he felt as though that maybe her getting back into an activity, because he felt that she did better with doing activities than he was seeing when she was seeing a counselor, with her seeing a counselor. Not saying that that's not what she might need now again, but he's just saying that he's seen a better outcome from her being involved in some type of activity. So that's what he's going to try with her, and hopefully it'll work out. And I'm just saying, anyone that is listening and is a caregiver or has a loved one or a friend that you're seeing red flags with, whether it's mental illness or an addiction, at the end of the day, what we're trying to share here, and hope that someone takes this and puts it into action, is that if you're seeing red flags on anything, whether it's their actions, whether it's their body language, or whether it's someone else coming back to you about certain situations that are happening with a certain person that is in your circle, or someone that's close to you, or someone that you feel comfortable approaching on the situation, we're just saying that, yes, question the situation, don't just blow it off. But when you do approach this individual, remember, they're very sensitive. Whether it's a mental illness or an addiction, it's going to be a very sensitive topic to them. Because a lot of us don't like the truth to be said to us. We don't like to deal with the truth, not coming from someone else. So sometimes, we do take the truth harsh and offensive, when I know the other person is just really trying to help out. But that's not how a lot of us look at the truth when it's thrown right at us. So, if this is something that you're trying to do, or you feel as though you're ready to approach someone, bring up a conversation because they need help, try to figure out first where they're at emotionally that day that you're going to approach them. Try to figure out, wrap your head around on what they're dealing with at this moment before you approach them. Get all that put together and then approach them with a conversation. Sometimes you might need to take them away from, their comfort zone, which will be, if they're, they don't live with you, maybe taking them out from where they live at and going somewhere else, whether maybe taking a walk with them or going out to eat with them. But I just think that they just need to be around a different scenery than the scenery that they deal with on a daily basis. Sometimes when we take someone out from their familiar sceneries, sometimes it helps them feel a little bit calmer. They're not so on edge because they're out, and it's different to them. And I think it'll help them to listen a little better too. So, if you want to approach someone, please do it in a really delicate way. Treat the conversation very open, very delicate, and be open to both ways of the conversation. What you want to approach them, make sure that you're being honest and tell them exactly how you feel, what you see, why you think that they need this help or this support or whatever it is that you're trying to talk to them about. Make sure that you're telling them exactly how you feel and why you think they need the help, whether it's for mental illness or an addiction. And when you're talking to them, let them speak too. Don't cut them off. Let them be open about how they feel on what you're approaching them about. Just let them talk. Because it is important that you're hearing both sides, how this individual really feels at this moment. And what you feel, because sometimes it's like I said, if they're not ready yet to get the help, whether it's for mental illness or an addiction, it's not going to work. They have to be ready and be open for the help. So it's really important that, yes, you do question it, you don't brush it off, but the most important thing here is that you let them talk and really clearly hear them out on what they're trying to tell you. And if what they're trying to tell you is that they're not ready or they don't feel as though they have a problem, then you need to really respect that boundary and don't cross it again until you feel as though they are ready. And if, they do tell you, yes, I do need the help, then support them 200%, walk them on the journey, get them the help, walk with them, make the call with them, and make sure that they do start the plan. Don't just put the plan together, walk away from it, and let them figure it out. Get involved with the plan with them. Get involved on who they're going to call or how they're going to do it in the community. Whichever way it is, make sure that you're there with them. Start it out with them. Stay with them on this journey so that they can go ahead and get healthy, get healed in a healthy way, recover in a healthy way. It's really important that when we approach a situation, we don't just leave it at that, we follow it through. Because sometimes that's what they need. They need someone to really walk along with them on this journey. Whether it is maybe supporting them and going with them to counseling, or maybe giving them a ride, or maybe just picking them up. But you're there, you're walking along with them. Whatever it is, whatever it takes, where they feel as though they're being supported, they're being heard, they're being seen. That's what matters. And that they, start the journey and they stay on the journey. And that they feel comfortable on the choices that they made, that they feel comfortable and safe doing it the way that it's being approached for them. Because that's really important, that they, whatever way they decide to go, whatever their choices, that they feel safe and that they feel comfortable, because they need to feel safe and comfortable to be able to heal in a healthy way, whether it's with a counselor, a therapist, or any other kind of maybe community-based program or an activity. It's got to be something that they want to do. And with that being said, I just want to say, it's really important that we really start caring more. I don't know how clearer to put it, but to just start caring a little bit more about our loved ones, our friends, people in general that's around us every day, or people that we know that we know deep inside something is not right. Whether this individual has ever told you the truth, or you've dealt with it before with them and it's been a long time, but it's back, you're seeing the red flags again. But that we do know deep inside that this individual has a struggle, whether it's mental illness or it's an addiction. We know they have a struggle. Let's make sure we stay in tune with them. I know as we grow and we become adults, sometimes we fade away from each other, from people that we love, people that we know. We grow apart. Some of us move away. Some of us, we get married, we have children, so our life changes on a daily basis. Everyone gets really busy with their own life, and sometimes we just miss things, because our own life is just moving all day. But sometimes we don't even have time to think ourselves on what's going on with us that one day too. But sometimes we just really have to pause and really remember that someone in our life, whoever that person is, sometimes just needs an extra care. We just maybe need to call them a little bit more, or go out to see them a little bit more and get involved with them a little bit more, so that we can make sure that they're on the right track, or just make sure that they are getting the help that they need. Or if they're not getting the help yet, eventually they will. Because every day, so much is happening in the world. It really is. And I'm not saying that us as parents or siblings or caregivers or friends are able to just prevent it all from happening, I don't think that would be realistic to say, because we can't ourselves prevent what life has put in our journey, or what's going to happen to us. And as a person, as an individual, on a daily basis, we don't know what we're dealing with sometimes. And it's hard to say, Things happen, and sometimes it's out of our control, and I get it. But sometimes, if we just really put a little bit more effort on certain things, we can catch them. Sometimes we can catch things from happening. And hopefully that is what I'm trying to say today, is hopefully, by us putting a little bit of more time into certain people in our life, we can prevent some things from happening, or maybe catch it a little sooner than a little later. Because like I always say, the worst thing I always want to hear someone say is, I wish I did this, or if I would have only had done this or did that, this wouldn't have happened. I always hate and I dread to hear those words when things happen, because it's just, life is reality, and I know that it's just the way things happen. And sometimes when things do hit us, news, from friends or family members that have lost other loved ones to an addiction or to a mental illness, you just really, it's heartbreaking when you hear them say, if only I was there more, or maybe I seen it, and then I didn't question it, I should have, But, we can't prevent everything, and it happens, and if you're out there and you've dealt with the losses, from a mental illness or an addiction, I just want you to know that it wasn't nothing that you did wrong. Sometimes we just can't prevent things from happening. We can't save everybody from everything. And don't be harsh on yourself. Don't be hard on yourself because maybe you lost someone very close to you to an addiction, and you feel as though you didn't help or give enough support, or you lost someone to a mental illness because you felt as though you wasn't around enough. I just want you to know, don't be harsh on yourself like that, because I'm sure if there was anything that you could have done to prevent it, you would have done it. Just a lot of things are out of our control. Every day, every second, and I know anyone that knows me hears me talking about this all the time, but it's really important to me. I really look at the numbers all the time, at least once a day. I look at the numbers of mental illness, suicides, lost to mental illness from over-medicating themselves, individuals hurting themselves, and the numbers of new diagnoses by the second are up, and the losses are up by the second. And the same thing with addiction. We have by the second, we're losing beautiful souls to an addiction, whether it's with an OD, self-medicating themselves, alcohol coma, just any type of drug coma, just losing their lives, fading away by the second. And just like by the second, we have a new addiction surfacing up. There's so many types, people that are dealing with addictions, they find so many types of ways to get high, to fade away from life. Everyone just thinks, drugs, or, like just the regular the type of drugs that people buy in the streets when you hear addiction, but it isn't. Addiction is in so many different type of ways. You have self-medicated from prescription medications. You have chemicals. People do mix chemicals and get high. You have street drugs, pills. There's so many different ways that people get high that it's really a big fight. It's a really big battle to help them out, and just hope that we can get this help out to around the world. So hopefully people can try to stop fading away so much from life and get the help that they need and become healthy and live healthy, and get the help that they need with the trauma. Because basically at the end of the day, no one wakes up wanting to have a mental illness. No one wakes up wanting to be an addict to something, addicted to anything. It's things that happen to us in life that puts us in those journeys, whether it's getting addicted to something or falling down into a dark hole with a mental illness. It's trauma. Some type of trauma that's in our life that we're battling with. And if we can get them the help that they need for the trauma that's rooting all these different situations that they're struggling with, it's a win, because it's going to help them out to become healthy, where they can no longer have to worry about being addicted to something or worry about that struggle with that mental illness on a daily basis, because they're getting help and they're healing from the root of it, which is a trauma that's affecting them mentally and in their nervous system. With that being said, I'm always looking for volunteers to help me get this information out worldwide even more than what I'm doing. I have all my services, all my tools and resources, services, information, you name it, I have it out worldwide. Because this is the cause why I started this podcast. That's why I started my organization, because I'm ready to help. And I want to help anyone that needs it, anyone that wants the help. I'm here. And that's why I put this team together. I put this organization together. I had this podcast. Hopefully someone can hear it and boom. It'll help them out on making that decision, that choice, that day of wanting to get help. So if you're out there and you want to volunteer, I know a lot of us don't have that much time, on a daily basis. We're trying to do our own thing, pay our bills, what we have to do ourselves for our life, and I get it and I understand it. But if you have your heart in it and you have, a little bit of time, it won't take you from what you need to do every day, because you can do it from your base, from your home. Because like I said, my clients are accessible worldwide. Our services are accessible worldwide. So it doesn't matter where you're at on the map. You don't even have to leave your home to help us out. You can do this from home at your own time when you want to do it. Reach out to us. If you are a licensed therapist, if you're a licensed counselor, if you're a licensed social services worker, or if you just want to be an advocate, reach out to us. You don't have to even leave your home to help us out. And no, there's no set schedule. You're a volunteer, so you'll work and help us when you want, at your time, at your leisure. And if you feel as though that your community can really benefit from our services, benefit from our tools and resources, please reach out to us. We'll get this information out to you. You can share it with your community. Or if you want to do something like we're doing, but you want to do it in your community, reach out to us. I will give you the tools and resources for you to run a collaborative organization with mine, but in your community. And we'll get you started in your community to help us out and run a collaborated based community organization like ours, but in your community. Please let me know. I will get you started on there, give you the tools and resources that you need, and we will walk with you side to side to make it happen in your community. With that being said, if you're listening to me today and you're a caregiver, please, or you're just someone that really wants to help someone else that needs the help. If you didn't get all your questions answered today on this podcast, or you want more information on how to approach the situation, or you just want to hear from someone else how we'd have done it, or how someone else that we know might have did it, or just help you out step by step with it, please reach out to us. Get on my website, www.you'renotalone.online. You can reach us on our toll-free number. You can email us. You can chat us on the website, which is monitored by live team person. We don't never have AI monitoring any of our stuff. Everything is monitored by a live individual. Please reach out to us. We will get you whatever you need. Again, that's www.you'renotalone.online. you'renotalone.online. And I just want to end my conversation today, my share today, by saying thank you to everyone that really has been supporting our organization, has really been showing up for our organization, not for me because it's not about me, but showing up for my cause, really supporting me with this cause of helping individuals that are struggling with mental illness, helping individuals that are struggling with some type of addiction. I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, and you know who you are out there that's been helping me worldwide. I want to say thank you. Couldn't do it without you. Keep pushing my stuff out there. Share my website link. Share our social media information. Share our podcast. Like I said, we're on all major platforms: iHeartRadio, Spotify, Audible, Amazon Audible, FM radio. We're out there. If you're not into social media, just find one of those platforms. You will find us. Or Google us. We're on Google. Google us. Google me, Jeannie Perez, the founder of You're Not Alone. Google me and you will find a way to find the information that you need. But please get the help that you need, or if you know someone out there that needs that help, please get them the help that they need. Start walking this journey with them. Get them started. With that being said, I want to say thank you again, and my statement, of course, I can't close without that because it's so important to know it's okay, and I really mean this from the bottom of my heart. It's okay to not be okay. For anyone, it's okay. There is no normal. It's okay to not be okay. But what's not okay is for you or anyone to ever struggle in the dark, alone, in silence, ever. Again, until next time, please take care of yourself and your loved ones.